You're listening to episode 4 featuring the true story shared by the author, Kamnap.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the early days of the Khmer Rouge regime.
It's incredible how quickly everything changed for Cambodians during that time.
One day, life is normal, and the next...
Yeah, next you're fleeing your home, surrounded by fear and chaos, just total uncertainty.
Exactly, and we're going even deeper into that experience today.
Oh, okay, cool.
We're going to be exploring it through the words of Kamnap,
Yeah?
author of 4 Years and 9 Days, My Life in the Kingdom of Hell.
Oh, wow, that title.
Right, just powerful.
Really sets the tone.
It does, and what's fascinating is that Rithia actually originally wrote this account as poetry.
Wow, as poetry. In Khmer.
Yeah, in Khmer, and then it was translated into English prose.
You know, you can even feel that poetic sensibility in the translation.
I agree.
There's just this rawness and emotionality woven into the prose.
So, to quickly refresh everyone's memory, last time we left off with Rithia's family escaping Phnom Penh,
Right.
encountering Khmer Rouge soldiers along the way, witnessing signs of violence.
A hunger, too, right? Struggling with hunger.
Exactly. It was a lot to take
It
in.
really was.
And Rithia's writing is so visceral.
Uh-huh.
It puts you right there in the middle of it.
In the middle of that chaos and fear, yeah.
One thing that's really stuck with me is that image of the discarded real currency
Oh, yeah.
scattered on the ground like confetti.
It wasn't just money, though, was it?
No, absolutely not.
It was like this symbol of everything the Khmer Rouge wanted to destroy.
Exactly. The end of the old economic system, the old social order.
It was a powerful statement, you know. Gonker is in control now.
And Ankar, for those who haven't listened to the previous deep dive,
Really pray.
it means the organization. And that's this enigmatic entity that the Khmer Rouge claim to represent.
It was everywhere, this name Ankar, just looming over everything.
And there was this constant pressure to keep moving.
Oh, yeah.
This promise that Ankar would provide.
But imagine the fear, the uncertainty for the people actually fleeing.
I can't even begin to imagine.
It must have been absolutely overwhelming.
Totally.
So this brings us to day 4 of Rithia's account, where his family arrives at Pré-Bouret,
Okay.
this forested area already packed with displaced people.
So picture this. You're exhausted. You haven't eaten.
Surrounded by strangers.
Yeah, surrounded by strangers. And then suddenly,
You've got the Khmer Rouge.
right, barking orders, go deeper into the forest.
Build shelters, they say.
Yeah, and they have to use only the materials they find there.
And the justification they give? I mean, it's chilling.
Oh, totally.
They say, these are our resources. You must be grateful to Ankar.
It's like they're taking self-sufficiency and twisting it into a tool of control.
Like some kind of twisted manipulation.
It's disturbing how quickly they establish their authority
Yeah, like that.
to impose their ideology on people who were already so vulnerable.
It's a classic totalitarian tactic, isn't it?
Totally.
Exploiting people's basic needs, their fears, to solidify power.
That evening, everyone's summoned to a mandatory meeting.
Oh, boy.
And the author, he describes threats of violence for anyone who doesn't obey.
And how did the leader speak? I remember it being described as odd.
Yeah, Rithia describes him speaking in this really strange, almost robotic way.
It's like they wanted to erase individual thought.
Yeah, to just replace it with blind obedience to Ankar.
Rithia mentions this example, the leader repeating a nonsensical sentence.
Oh, right, about Ankar's victory.
Yeah, over and over, like it was some sort of mantra.
It's chilling, isn't it? You get this real sense of brainwashing, of people being forced to conform.
Losing their individuality.
All right.
And then we're introduced to Asat.
Asat, the village chief.
Right, and he's actually a distant relative of Rithia's.
It's unsettling, right? Because this supposed family member accuses Rithia's own grandmother of being a capitalist.
And he threatens her life.
It just shows how deep this Khmer Rouge ideology had penetrated.
Turning family members against each other.
But you know what I found incredible?
What's that?
Rithia's grandmother, she's so brave.
Oh, yeah, she stands up to him.
She reminds Asat how she helped his family.
Right, it's like you could see this internal struggle within him.
Like this clash between what he's been told to believe and his own history, you know.
It's such a tragic example of how ideology can warp people's perceptions.
And it's even more heartbreaking because we learn that Asat was once a monk.
A monk. Wow, someone dedicated to peace and compassion.
It really shows how susceptible anyone can be to extremist ideologies.
Especially during times of fear and uncertainty, yeah.
And thankfully, in that moment, Asat's wife steps in.
Oh.
She manages to calm the situation.
For now.
Yeah, at least for now.
It was a brief respite, But you realize how volatile life had become under the Khmer Rouge.
Absolutely. One minute you're facing execution, the next you're back to this uneasy normalcy.
It must have been a constant psychological strain.
Unimaginable. And then the forced labor begins.
Everyone has to clear the forest to build shelters.
Families separated into work units, and the food rations.
Yeah, they were meager, weren't they?
Rithi is thrown into this back-breaking work.
Having to learn these new skills.
He mentions injuries were commonplace.
Right. And you're constantly afraid of making a mistake.
Because who knows what the punishment would be.
You get a real sense of desperation, just people trying to survive.
And then there's this interesting detail about Rithia's brother-in-law
Okay.
wanting to build a good quality hut.
Well, Rithia just wants to get something up quickly.
Right, and it's like this
And it's
contrast
between self-preservation.
and this need for some normalcy.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But then, the irony, Assat shows up, sees the shelters, and demands they all be rebuilt.
To the brother-in-law's standard.
Exactly, highlighting how arbitrary life was under the Khmer Rouge.
Wonder what could happen next.
Absolutely. How will they navigate this dangerous and unpredictable world?
We'll have to find out.
We will.
You have to know.
Me too. That's a great point. You know, the brother-in-law's standard becoming the rule, it just shows how fragile any sense of stability was under the Khmer Rouge.
It really does. You never knew what would change the rules, what might suddenly shift your fate.
And as we go further into Rithia's story, you start to see how that constant pressure, that fear, really starts to wear on him.
Yeah.
He talks about this growing weariness, almost a numbness.
I mean, when you're always on edge, facing that deprivation and the threat of violence, it's natural for your spirit to break.
It's truly heartbreaking to read, but even in the midst of all that darkness, he describes these small acts of resilience.
It does, doesn't it? That's a profound question.
What stories would sustain you? What memories?
Yeah, and I think Rithia's account really forces us to think about that psychological impact,
Not just the physical hardships, but that psychological toll of living under such a repressive regime.
Exactly.
It wasn't just about the lack of food or the forced labor.
No, it was that constant fear, the erosion of trust.
The disintegration of community and family bonds.
The Khmer Rouge weren't just trying to reshape their society.
It's like they wanted to reshape the minds of the people.
Dismantle the existing structures of thought, belief, and replace them with their own ideology.
Which leads us to another chilling part of Rithia's account. The escalating brutality of the regime.
As the days turn into weeks,
He sees more and more violence.
arbitrary punishments, public executions.
It's a reminder that the Khmer Rouge's ideology wasn't just about this, agrarian utopia.
No, it was rooted in violence and fear.
They used terror to control people, to silence any dissent and maintain obedience.
And you start to see how Rithia's understanding of Ankar changes as he witnesses these horrors.
It's like that veil of propaganda is lifted.
And he sees the true nature of the regime, not a benevolent protector, but a cruel and tyrannical oppressor.
It's like this new kind of fear emerges in him, not just fear for his own safety, but for the fate of Cambodia.
Imagine carrying that weight.
Having that knowledge and still being forced to participate in this very system that is causing so much pain.
It must have been agonizing.
It's almost unimaginable. And you realize how insidious these totalitarian regimes can be. They control your actions.
And they try to control your thoughts, your beliefs, your perception of reality.
Exactly. Rithia's account, though, really is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
It is, our ability to resist even the most powerful forms of oppression. I think Rithia's story challenges us all to think about that, right? It's not just looking at the horrors of the past, but seeing the potential for resilience within ourselves.
To see what we'd be willing to fight for, what we'd hold on to, even when facing unimaginable adversity.
Because it's not just one man's experience.
Lives.
This is about the power of the human spirit to endure.
To resist and overcome even the darkest times. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Kamnap Rithia's 4 years and 9 days,
Powerful book.
I'm left with this feeling of gratitude for his courage to share his story, and this commitment to honor the memory of all those who suffered under the Khmer Rouge.
Yeah.
If you found this conversation interesting, I urge you to seek out the full autobiography. Rithia's words are powerful, they're moving, a real testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope it left you with a deeper understanding of this complex chapter in history. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share with your friends to stay updated on our upcoming episodes.